I feel like my editors have probably titled this something which is likely to get people who think positively of Joe Rogan to watch. At least I would like them to. So to those people who feel positively about Joe Rogan, haha, I fooled you. I don't like him very much. But Joe Rogan is all about talking to and listening to people who he disagrees with, right? I mean, the whole Joe Rogan bit is like open-mindedness. That's the whole, I mean, that's at least every time I see Joe Rogan, I feel like he's, leaning over his table, drooling slightly while somebody says something contrarian. He's like nodding along. It's so you can't you can't close the video on me. Look, recently, the greatest Twitter beef in all of human history, no exaggeration, took place. Okay, known warrior of fitness, Ethan Klein, came out there and said negative things about Joe Rogan. Okay, and it caused a little bit of a stir, here. Um, Joe Rogan, who lives on elk meat, egg yolk, and human growth hormone with lungs full of tar, thinks he's healthier than everyone. This MFer, when a non black person, by the way, says MFer on Twitter, they mean the N word with the A. They want to say that and they wish they were black and could. I know this because I'm a white person who said MFer and I knew what I wanted to say because I'd read funny tweets from black people, but I couldn't repeat them perfectly. Um, anyway, this MFer is such a bitch that when he got COVID, he threw, quote, the kitchen sink at it, end quote. If you're so healthy, just ride it out like you say a man should. Now, I'll play the contrarian here. I think this is a remarkably stupid tweet. The truth of the matter is, okay, I really don't know about or care about what Joe Rogan consumes or health wise, or really I don't care at all. People have saliently pointed out that Joe Rogan is very muscular and Ethan Klein is not. Um, yes, here we go. I think the basic breakdown of the response to this particular tweet has been this photo. Now, to be fair, Joe Rogan is like 4 feet tall, so it's much easier to look like this when you're that height. But yeah, contrasted with this photo, which, while I'm not shaming anyone for anything, does convey a generally different level of physical fitness. Some might say it's highly subjective game there. Anyway, so I think Klein kind of opened himself up to that one a little bit. But moving on, more importantly, I think, dude has caused so much vaccine hesitancy and misinformation, and he doesn't even have the balls to stand by the shit he preaches. Now he's on a show talking about how fat people should just die of COVID. Dude is such a fucking piece of shit. Instead of getting vaccinated, he takes Regeneron, an experimental drug that was developed alongside mRNA vaccines. His logic makes no sense. And then credits ivermectin, which does fucking nothing for COVID. Not to mention whatever the fuck is an alpha brain. Meanwhile, while Joe's on big pharma conspiracy against vaccines, someone needs to ask him who makes ivermectin Regeneron and all the other shit he took when he had COVID. So, in stark contrast to the first tweet, these are all, I think, really good tweets. So the issue here is, look, we were just talking about material conditions a little bit ago and dialectical materialism. Joe Rogan is influenced by a number of things. His brain, his libido, his hunger, and also the many millions that he makes through his job. And there is no denying that he and many other people have found a tremendous audience in anti-vaccine content. Now, it is, by the way, anti-vaccine content. Let's be clear, okay? Not all anti-vaccine content has to explicitly say, "Don't take the vaccine. It's a Bill Gates microchip injection." No, it doesn't have to be that explicit. Raising undue fear about something can also be anti that thing. I mean, we know this with other issues, don't we? Like, for a person to be racist, they don't have to say, like, yes, I hate black people or whatever. Some of them do say that, and they make that kind of easy categorization wise. But if a person is like, oh, I don't hate anyone, but like, I have some concerns about those inner city type, whatever. Like, of course, yeah, obviously, hesitant you know, half earnest condemnations, even raising questions about some things can be perceived as being anti that thing. I mean, this doesn't even have to do with bigotry, really. This is just kind of a semantic thing. Gender critical for trans people, but you can even ignore the minority element. You know what I mean? If you go to a party and somebody's like, "Have you been eating more recently?" and you're like, "I don't think so." No, and they're like, "Okay, just asking." Like, and if you call them out now, you're like, what are you saying? The point is that, like, when people try to say that Joe Rogan isn't anti-vaccine because he doesn't explicitly say the vaccines are bad and you shouldn't take them, I think that's really dumb. Implicit does a lot of work here, and he does give air to a lot of really dumb points. The Regeneron, stuff, again, like Ethan Klein points out, I think is pretty dumb because, again, it was an experimental drug developed alongside mRNA side effects. I mean, like, like, you can't, if you're skeptical about the vaccines but not the Regeneron, I don't know why. And of course, we have the ivermectin thing, but I want to talk about this more beyond the actual substance of the tweets here. I saw this actually on my subreddit this morning, which is interesting. These are media ratings quarterly, average viewers per show. And, down here we have CNN primetime. And then at the top, at triple what Tucker Carlson gets, we have the Joe Rogan Experience. The overwhelming power of new media on display here. And it is very powerful. We talk about Tucker Carlson as one of the, the forethinking, one of the leaders of modern political thought. But in reality, turning towards podcasters and YouTubers might actually be more reflective. Joe Rogan is an extremely influential person. What is the 5? I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what the 5 is. I have no idea. I don't know. Is it a right-leaning show, left-leaning show? I don't know. Hannity, Tucker Carlson Tonight, Fox News, Primetime, Average, The Increment Angle, all those are conservative. The 5 is a Fox show. How do conservatives complain again about liberal media when the top 5 media ratings outside the Joe Rogan Experience are all like Fox or Fox derivative? Probably because they tend to be older, and older people tend to get their news from the television as opposed to the internet. If we included, I don't know, what, PewDiePie in the quarterly media ratings, they would probably destroy Joe Rogan as well. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, he's a very important figure. And the issue is, there's an old saying that I was taught when I was young, which was be open-minded, but don't let your brain fall out, something like that, which means that being open to new ideas is generally a good thing. But if you're so open to new ideas that you stop being skeptical, or you stop applying any kind of discernment to the ideas that you're accepting, you basically just turn into a fucking idiot. And I think that really, really applies to, like, the Joe Rogan formula here. Because Joe Rogan, I think, at least with regards to the vaccine hesitancy, is categorically, like, more harmful than a lot of explicit conservatives are. Not just because of his reach, but I think that Joe Rogan teaches people to not make arguments. I think Joe Rogan teaches people to make the opposite of arguments. In a way, I've argued with a lot of conservatives, and while they are not the best, they do tend to believe things, and they'll make arguments in favor of those things, which is almost refreshing in some environments. But I've talked with some of the Joe Rogan crowd, and there's this veneer of apolitical neutrality that cloaks everything they do and say, which they use kind of as a shield, Oh, there's no ideological bias here. We're just following info where it takes us. The denial of a political bias. I mean, at least people who watch, Tucker Carlson, they can readily admit, yeah, I'm a conservative, yeah, I'm into this, that, or the other. But the most devious and the most disingenuous and the most anti-intellectual political positions are the ones which hold to no bias at all. Anybody who claims to not have a bias is lying to you. And by the way, it's the worst kind of lie, because it denies you the ability to even understand, to even question why or what your positions are, what they might lead to, why they're being delivered to you. At least when conservative demagogues are saying stuff to you, it's part of a conservative political agenda. Conservatives can admit to that. They acknowledge that. But I don't know. The Joe Rogan types, man. It's basically the forefront of modern vaccine hesitancy. And I don't, by the way, I don't even really care about the vaccine hesitancy stuff itself so much as the tendencies which lead into it. Because vaccine hesitancy, as it's currently expressed, is a really stupid position, you know. But I want to get at the root of that. What makes them open to those stupid positions? I mean, what makes them so vulnerable to being spoken to in that way? I don't know. Either way, so Ethan Klein continued for a little bit here, you know, as one does. Joe Rogan, a steroid pinata whose gut is so swollen from human growth hormone, lectures people on health. This is sort of a dumb point because Joe Rogan's personal health has nothing to do with his ability to make health-based arguments for other people. Um, it is somewhat funny though. Joe Rogan, I feel like, is on an eternal quest to compensate for his shortness with regards to his masculinity, and you know, it's taken him quite far, I think. Um, you say I'm unhealthy, yet Joe Rogan, adjusted for outfit, has the same body as me. Oh God, that is really quite good. That is really quite good. Okay, this is very embarrassing. Lauren Chen says Ethan Klein, who was the muscle tone of flan, actually believes he's the same body as Joe Rogan. Lauren Chen, you would have to be the most humorless or the most humorless SJW imaginable to not get the joke here. I think if you actually pressed her on it, Lauren Chen would acknowledge that it is a joke. I just don't think she cares because she knows that her out. Oh, well, here we go. Ratio plus beta plus intellectual heavyweight. Okay, yeah. The duo at it again. An instant ratio. Very powerful. Anyway, very funny, very good. Um and then he continues to post, you know, the Andy No tweet. Obese YouTube star Ethan Klein criticizes Joe Rogan for his health choices. This is ultimately how it's going to be framed. Yeah, see right here. I think at the end of the day, this actually hits at the core of the Joe Rogan brainworm experience. I feel like a lot of Joe Rogan listeners are very obsessed with the imagery of masculinity and the aesthetic of being like a contrarian, you know, anti-establishment, free-thinking individual, which means that to them, you know, the good political positions and individual masculine presentation are one and the same. So even though Ethan Klein is predominantly criticizing Joe for being empirically wrong about medicine that Joe Rogan knows nothing at all about and has nothing to do with Joe Rogan's personal health, this is what they're going to ham on. You know what I mean? It makes sense. What about Hassan? Yeah, Hassan I feel like Hassan is almost literally twice Joe Rogan's height, so um he's muscular from a much more difficult vantage point too. You know, conservatives can't answer to that one. It's one of the reasons why optically, you know, it's good for lefties to be, you know, Giga Chad alpha warriors. Not that it actually makes a difference for anything real, but you have to understand conservatives and Joe Rogan fans are very simple-minded people. Who's taller between Rogan and Destiny? Oh, Destiny's meme short. Rogan is actually short. Rogan is actually um quite short, I think. I mean, he's a very stubby guy, I think. Yeah, I don't even know what the height is of the guy next to him, but I'm just going to say for the sake of, you know, simplicity, that the guy next to Rogan is about 5'6". I'm just gonna go with that. It's easy, it's simple, it's probably true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Wait, hold on. This is the edited photo. There we go. It's quite silly, but you know. But hey, if you're a fan of Joe Rogan, imagine if Joe Rogan, gave a take on you know, masculinity, and people just made fun of him for being short, and that was being considered a legitimate counter argument to the thing that he said, a thing which is quite unobjectionable in any other context. It's rather silly, isn't it, right? I mean, I guess you could do that for anyone and anything, but all right. Cut the damn segment.